Herkese merhabalar. Ee, Bölümümüze yeni katılan arkadaşlara hoş geldin demek istiyorum öncelikli olarak. Bugünkü mezunlarla sohbet toplantımız yeni dönemin ilk konuşması olacak. Bu anlamda bütün öğrenci arkadaşlarımıza iyi bir dönem diliyoruz. Sağlıklı, sıhhatli bir dönem geçirmelerini diliyoruz. Tekrardan bütün arkadaşlara hoş geldin diyorum. Arkadaşlar bu sohbet serimiz önümüzdeki dönem içerisinde bu saatlerde gerçekleştirmeye devam edecek. Özellikle eski mezunlarımızdan sizlere yönelik tavsiyelerini almaya çalışacağız. Bugünkü ilk misafirimiz, ilk konumuz 2007 mezunumuz. Daha sonra da yüksek lisans, 2010 yüksek lisans mezunumuz Erida Dule. Erida'ya öncelikli olarak teşekkür ediyorum. Kendisi şu an Kanada'dan katılıyor. Montreal'de Behavior Interactive şirketinde, oyun şirketinde Technical Lead Programmer olarak çalışıyor. Erida tekrar teşekkür ederim. Hoş geldin. Senden kısaca bir kendini tanıtmanı rica edebilir miyiz?
Tabii. Sen beni iyi tanıttın. Teşekkür ederim. Ben Erida Dule, İTÜ mezunuyum. İTÜ Bilgisayar Mühendisliği bölümünü okudum. Daha sonra da daha doğrusu bilgisayar bilimleri, unuttum ben de kaç zaman oldu.
Evet.
Bilgisayar bilimleri bölümünde master yaptım. İstanbul'un Silivri ilçesinde büyüdüm. Daha sonra da mezun olup biraz çalıştıktan sonra Kanada'ya taşındım. Montreal'de yaşıyorum yaklaşık 8 senedir. Burada çalışıyorum. İşte birazdan belki bebek sesi duyarsanız şaşırmayın. Küçük bir bebek var evde.
Kaç yaşında?
Daha 8 haftalık.
Hayırlı olsun. Tebrik ediyorum. Benim haberim yoktu. Sağlık, sıhhatli büyüsün. Anneli babalı büyüsün diyelim. Bizim için hiç problem değil. Şöyle başlayayım aslında ben. Eğitim hayatıyla ilgili böyle birkaç soru sorayım. Bilgisayar mühendisliğini seçmekten memnun musun? Aslında ilk sorumuz bu olsun. Ve seçim sebebi neydi aslında? Çünkü bir yaklaşık
Tabii
2000
2001'de
evet,
2001 girişliyim ben
20 yıl. Evet.
İTÜ'ye. Hazırlık okudum. Ondan sonra 5 sene, 4,5 senede okul sürdü. Lisans sürdü. Sonra yüksek lisans 2-3 sene. İşte 2010'da hepsi bitti. Seçiş sebebim aslında ben lisedeyken lisenin ilk yıllarında mimarlık düşünüyordum. İşte daha böyle görsel sanatlara meraklıydım. Resim vesaire işte öyle şeyler yapıyordum. Ondan sonra bir tanıdığımız bilgisayar verdi. Ben lisenin son sınıfındayken bir bilgisayar geldi evimize. Bilgisayarım yoktu ondan önce. Küçük bir bilgisayar herhalde, bu P3 mü P2 mi Intel prosesörlerin ilk yani çok eskisi değil ama ya P2 idi, böyle bir şeydi. Windows 95 vardı üstünde. Ya da 94, tam hatırlamıyorum. İşte orada işte birazcık bilgisayarla ilgilenmeye başladım. Oyunlar oynamaya başladım. İşte Dice Tower vardı, işte Bomberman falan vardı. Öyle olunca biraz merak sardım. Sonra sınava girdim. Puanım da yüksek gelince bilgisayar mühendisliği seçtim. İlk 2-3 tercihim öyleydi. Sonra işte mimarlık vesaire diye gidiyordu. O şekilde ve memnunum. Bilgisayar mühendisliği seçmekten memnunum. Bana gerçekten bu bölümden mezun olmak, yazılım yapıyor olmak, her yerde kapılar açılıyor. Çünkü şu anda en fazla aranan mesleklerden bir tanesi bilgisayar mühendisliği ya da yazılım geliştirici ya da işte diğer alt dallar. Gerçekten aranan mesleklerden bir tanesi. O yüzden başka meslekten, mesela atıyorum mimar olsan ya da başka bir mühendislik olsan, illaki oradaki mühendislik ya da odasına kayıt olman lazım, başka testlerden geçmen lazım. Ama bizim meslekte belki henüz oturmadığı için bilemiyorum, böyle bir şey yok. Eğer eğer gerçekten biliyorsan, bilgiliysen, kendini kanıtlayabiliyorsan her yerde iş yapabilirsin, her yerde çalışabilirsin. Böyle bir avantajı var.
Lisans eğitimi sırasında en çok beğendiğin dersler neydi? Sevdiğin dersler neydi? Hatırlıyor musun?
Lisans eğitimi sırasında ilk sene sanırım şey vardı, ayrık matematik, de lojik. Onları bayağı sevmiştim, lojik dersini. Ama sonra otomatlar dersini sevdiğimi hatırlıyorum. Son zamanlarda. Evet,
Bunun özel bir
galiba
sebebi
bunlar.
var mıydı?
Efendim?
Bunların özel bir sebebi var mıydı? Hocalardan dolayı mı yoksa konuların içeriği mi?
Ya konuların içeriği galiba. Bir de computer graphics dersini almıştım son zamanlarda. Yani ilgilendiğim konularda ilk defa gördüm tabii ayrık matematikle lojik. O belki daha çok şeye yakın olduğu için, ilk sene olduğu için matematiğe daha yakın şeyler, daha böyle mantıksal çözüm, problem çözmek üzerineydi. Belki o yüzden onları sevdim. Otomatları da bilmiyorum. Yani konusu güzeldi. İşte her şey öğrenmiştik. Sonlu durum makinalarını öğrenmiştik orada. İşte bir durumdan başka bir duruma geçiş, oradaki şartların değişmesi vesaire. İlginç gelmişti o zaman bana.
Ben burada hocalarımızı görüyorum. Feza Can falan da var. Hocam sizler de katılabilirsiniz. Ben doğaçlama olarak devam ediyorum. E,
Ben de Erida'ya merhaba diyeyim.
Merhaba hocam.
Bu arada chatten öğrencilerimiz de yazıyor. Erida artık biz %100 İngilizce bir program olduk.
Öyle mi?
Yabancı öğrencilerimiz de var. O nedenle İngilizce devam edersek iyi olur.
Aa,
Aramızda
tamam.
yabancı öğrenciler de var.
Şimdi evet, öğrenciler yazmışlar. Hı hı.
Onu da hatırlatayım.
Okay.
2010'dan
Yes.
beri
Sorry, we can continue in English.
our
Okay,
program.
I'm sorry. I didn't know that
Okay.
Sorry for interrupting. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Actually, I'm a fourth-year student. I joined this meeting because I felt like the name was Albanian. I'm an Albanian student. I don't know.
Yes, I'm Albanian too. Yes, I was born in
Oh.
Albania and we migrated to Turkey when I was 9.
Nice to hear that.
By the way, we have great Albanian students. Most of them are very clever and they are very successful. We would like to thank all of them.
Thank you,
year,
hocam.
let me continue. I would like to ask which courses were most useful for you in your career? Can
I
you
think
summarize? Do you have a list, something like that?
even though I didn't understood the importance when I was studying, algorithm analysis was one of the most useful courses. Data structure, I knew the importance then, but it's also very important. And I got one from Feza Hoca. I got one course, yazılım modelleme, I don't know how to translate it, software modeling and design, I think.
Yes. Software modeling. No,
Wrong
it's
in
in
English.
English.
So that was also, yeah, okay. So that was also very useful because I continued my career on software development, and those were very important. Also for algorithm analysis, I would never knew that in every interview they ask about analysis. So what is this algorithm? What's the cost, memory cost, or computation cost? How can you improve this, etc., etc. So that's why I think it was one of the most important courses that I took. In hardware wise, like not hardware, but semi-hardware, maybe computer organization, I think. So it helps you to understand the underlying structure of the computer and how everything works, how the algorithms work, how the software works on top of the computer. So that's why that was also important for me. Yeah, I think those ones were the most important. And computer graphics was important for me because I continued on game development a bit. So knowing the 3D mathematics was a plus.
Especially for game programming, right?
Yes, I mostly continued on game development. I also did some mobile development at some point when I was living in London. So yeah, I lived in London for 1.5 years in between when I was, after I moved to Montreal. And I worked there too. I worked there as mobile developer.
What are the best aspects of ITU computer engineering department? What are the best aspects?
Sorry, could you?
So the pros of our department, positive aspects, positive parts of our department. Do you think?
Oh, I can't hear. Just a second. I need to increase my sound.
Can you hear me right now?
Yes, I can hear you
Okay.
better now.
What are the best aspects of our department?
Oh, okay. I think the best aspects were having both software engineering courses, like programming courses, and software engineering and data structure or file organization, etc. This kind of courses, as well as some hardware-based courses like microprocessor or computer organization, computer architecture kind of courses helps. As I said before, when I was explaining which courses I liked, like having those hardware and software courses together helps understand how the software works and helps when you write, if you choose to go as a software if you choose software development, it helps you understand to write the underlying structure, and then helps you write more performant code and debugging. Also, it increases your debugging skills because you learn a bit of assembly, especially for C++. If you write in C++, for Java and other scripting languages, Python, or it's not the case so much, but still you know like what's there and why, and that helps at some point. It depends also. You can also move to more, I don't know, you can get jobs like circuit design jobs, for example, not in Turkey maybe so much. I knew that there were some startups that were doing some kind of thing, this kind of projects. Also, I don't know, if you move to networking, so you learn about networking. If you can do networking, you can do system programmers or DevOps. So you have a broad choices, career choices in front of you.
By the way, can you also list the weaknesses of our department? The weaknesses.
The weaknesses?
Right.
I don't know now, but at my age, it was, I would have liked to see more industrial cooperation. It wasn't the case. And the internships, maybe having more internships, like longer, allowing students to have longer internships would help. It wasn't the case. We could just have 1 month internship during the summertime, and then we would just find by our own. There was not much help from the
Department.
faculty. Yes, so that was, if those areas have improved, I don't know, or can improve, it would be better. And maybe having more projects, more applied courses that would help students to learn and practice their skills more. I don't know if they'll hate me because I said more projects, but it helps, really helps.
I see. Do you think that you have a good education at our department?
Yes, yes. Overall, I have good education. I think I had a good education at ITU. Yes.
Apart from education, what can you say about social or student club activities? Have you been involved in these activities? Did you see any benefits of this? What can you say about these types of activities?
So when I
Social
was
life.
at my undergrad, I was living in the campus. I was in the dorm, and I spent most of the time in the campus. So I was participating most of the activities. For example, there were it was Kasebe Cultural Center. So they had theater plays that the social groups would present. I was part of painting, draw and painting club. And at some point at the end of my education, I participated in much parachute, parachute, not parachute, but the other one, the plan. So yeah, and I really liked watching theater. So I was going to the cities, Istanbul cities. I was watching most of them, the city theaters. And then going out with friends. I was also, there was a computer club at some point. I joined that for 1 year or so. So these helped me to meet other people, to meet people from different departments, broadened my point of view, added to my common knowledge, and also it helps to discharge the stress. Not always. It helps you to think about something else other than just work and courses and classes and homework.
By the way, if you started your computer engineering education again, what would you do with your current experience? I mean, what do you think that you did right and wrong?
During my studies?
Right, during your studies.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I would have spent more time on projects and more, I would have...
By the way, our students, sorry, I'm interrupting, by the way, most of our students are complaining about doing projects, doing homeworks.
No, they shouldn't complain. I mean, maybe maybe they should find them interesting. Maybe they're not in their interest. Some courses are not to everyone's interest. So maybe they are interested in another course and they'll find the projects more interesting there, and then they'll spend time there. I would have done maybe more personal projects, and I would have found internships that I don't know how possible it would have been, but I would have tried to find better internships for myself. I think I had one useful internship among 3 of them. I mean, all of them were useful for the time, but not now. When I look back, they state, for example, one was on databases, but it was like DB2 or something, like a very old, and now it's dead. For example, it's not useful anymore. It didn't have future, but I didn't know then. So yeah.
So what would you recommend then for our newcomers?
For newcomers, I recommend them to know each other and to work together, to learn to work together with their friends. Collaboration is really important. And when you have group projects, don't stay aside, don't wait for other people to do everything and then you just do documentation or something like that. Try to participate as much as you can in group projects. Find, if you have time, like in later years, in the 3rd grade or 4th grade, you can work part-time. Or if you have any personal interest that you have in mind, a project, just start doing it with, I don't know, the simplest programming language now is, the easiest to learn is Python. You can learn Python and do something with it. Or the first C++, I think. Do you still teach C++ as first language now?
We teach Python at first.
Python? Oh, okay.
And in object-oriented course, we have C++.
C++, okay. So yeah, do something with them. With Python, it's easy to go and yeah, just if you have any interest, try to do it.
So if you compare the business areas, so you also work in Turkey and abroad. So how will you evaluate the business areas in Turkey and abroad for computer engineers?
In Turkey, especially in Istanbul, there are many areas you can work. Mostly on software, and also DevOps, maybe networking a bit. So there are this kind of areas in Istanbul. You can work in finance, or there are game companies as well. There are other software companies that work. There are agencies that work for as third-party service software services, and in many different technologies. I think mostly C# or Python. Sorry, C#, Java. So these languages are more popular in Turkey. In here, the game industry is very popular, and also data, deep learning, like the new trend of machine learning, the artificial intelligence is developed in Montreal. There are a few universities that are very good in deep learning, and also there are universities that give game development courses, not courses, but there are departments really specific to, because the industry is as such here. There are many game companies, and also many startups or big companies that have come to get the talent for deep learning.
Erida, our students have also some questions. If you look at the chat
Oh,
board, maybe you
okay.
can see them and answer them.
Okay, yes, I can start.
Of our friends missed the first part. We will try to, dear friends, we had better to write to chat board. Then Erida can read the questions and answer all of them. By the way, we will try to upload this in interview or chat.
Okay.
Okay. On
Okay,
YouTube.
should we go from the first of the questions, or we continue with your questions?
My questions nearly are done. I mean, so I
Okay.
would like to get your advices to those who want to work in the field of game development. And I would like to also ask about the experience in working abroad, different in terms of computer engineering studying Turkey and abroad.
If I compare with Turkey and abroad, the office culture is a bit different abroad and Turkey. In Turkey, there's more communication out of like non-professional communication that's going on in the offices, but abroad is not like that. So that's the difference. And also, I found it more, so as a woman, I found it more, I found myself more self-confident when I worked abroad. I don't know why. The ratio is the same, almost the same for programming. Is also like, I go there, is here. At most places, I was the only woman programmer or like the second, except in my current company. Actually here, there are many and in different positions, in high positions as well, not just programmers. So yeah, professional life is like, you don't have conversation about, the people are more distant maybe. In Turkey, people, you get very close in a week with your with your neighbor that you sit next to you. And then here, the professional growth is encouraged. In Turkey as well, actually, they would pay for, if you wanted to go to a conference, they would pay if you're interested. But here is more encouraged, and collaboration is also important. You can work with different disciplines, especially in game companies. You work with different disciplines. You work with game designer, artists, testers, not just with programmers or tech people. So that also helps to so socially helps, and also helps to change your way of explaining things. So you need to explain things easier, not just the way that a programmer can understand. So this is it. I mean, this is a part where it's different for game companies compared to a just software company, software startup. But if I compare it with Turkey and abroad, in Turkey, I had also good experiences. It's just that the only one, as I said, it's the office life is a bit different. It's more professional, as I guess, in abroad.
Okay, thanks. I think we can get our friends' students' questions. So Görkem asked, in the first year of university, what did you expect to find? And at the end, what did you get?
In the first year of university, I was actually, I didn't have so much expectations. I was hoping to get the courses, to pass the courses, and to learn some programming, because I didn't have any programming knowledge at all before. I mean, I used a computer and I had researched something, but I didn't know how to program. So I was hoping at the end of the year to learn programming. And I got more than that. I had math courses, physics courses, and I think there was, discrete math
Mhm.
course, and then we had a C. We used to start with C, not Python before. So yeah, I learned how to program C at the end of the first year.
So are the grades important? The next question. Are the grades important?
The grades are not so important if you learn. So if you learn and if you are competent when you go in the working field, because in the interviews, they also ask programming questions or they ask technical questions according to your area of interest or the job that you are applying to. If it's not a software engineering job, if it's another DevOps job, they will give you a problem and they will ask you to solve it based on your knowledge. So if you have learned what is needed for what you are applying, then the grades are not important. But the grades show what you learn in most cases. I mean, maybe not all the courses help for your future career, so those may not be that important. But yeah, if you learn, the grades are not that important.
Have you went to extra courses or educated yourself additionally after graduating to find a job as a game developer? This is from Berkin.
When I started additional courses, no, I didn't get any professional external courses. I learned myself. I learned from different websites or from books, or just as an apprentice when I started the job. So I didn't took any certificate courses or anything. No, I learned by myself and through experience in the different positions that I worked.
What is the vicious cycle of game development? How do you start? How many people do you work with? What kinds of personnel are required other than programmers? From Görkem.
Okay, let's start from vicious cycle of game development. So vicious cycle, you mean this? What do you, Görkem? How do you start? How many people do you work? Okay, I mean, you can start by learning a game engine, for example. You can start by running a hello world in a game engine, just a simple project in a game engine. You can, basically the cycle is it gets input, a game gets the input, updates the state, the game state, and then draws something, renders. So that's the basic cycle of a game. And if you want to have this, most of these things are ready in game engines. So Unity and Unreal engines, these are the most common ones that are used. And both of them has free personal usage, so you can download them for free and you can start using and exploring them. They also have good documentation on their official sites. So you can go check them out and learn what to do and how to use the tools. I think Unreal is with C++ and Unity needs C#. They use a tool called Mono. So you can program it, then converts it underneath to C++ again, but they made it easier I think they wanted to make it easier to develop the development. And how do you start? Yes, so you can, well, it depends on the project. In our project, so at Behavior, I work at a game called Dead by Daylight. It's a multiplayer online game. It's asymmetric, so there are And we release every 3 months a chapter, every 1.5 months a mid chapter for the game. So there's a character and a map and different different systems that we implement around it. How many? At the beginning when I started the project, it wasn't so, I mean, they had implemented the project with 40 people. When I joined the project, it was about 40 people, including game level designers and programmers and testers. So now we are close to 200. So the more, because when it got released, it started with only PC. So you can start small. You should start small when you can start small when you implement a game, see how it goes, and then you can enlarge it. You can extend it. You could add other features. So if you start with basics, you don't need too many people. There are indie games around. For example, Braid was done by only one person, maybe two. I don't know the arts where he got the artwork, but the programmer was just one, and it got so successful. Everyone played it, and so yeah, it depends on the project. It depends on the idea, but at least if you can do both the art and the programming, you can do it. It may take some time. It can be a very simple to implement, but the idea is good and it's different, so it can attract attention. So yeah, but for now we are 200 and program, because now we are on many platforms: mobile, Xbox, PlayStation, Stadia. We released in Stadia last week, Switch as well. So that's why you need, for platforms or for different systems, you need more people, you need marketing people, and it gets the bigger it gets, the more people you need.
So
Was there other question that I didn't answer in this? No. What kinds of personnel are required other than programmers? Yes, so testers, as I said, there are artists, character artists, level artists, UI designers, UI programmers, producers, project managers, marketing when it's needed, and publishers as well. You can also have it published by another company, but if you are publishing by yourself, there are different publishers. Yeah.
what are the key differences between a game programmer and a software programmer? Do the steps of product pipeline differ from each other?
No, I mean, not when the game is not live yet. So in the development phase, you still have the development cycles. So first, first round, you do the first thing, you implement, you develop in cycles. So you have the first viable product. Like you implement the basics first, and then you plan it, you design it, it gets approved, and then it's implemented. You can prototype it. So first it's prototyping, actually. Yes, we have a different phases for game development. First, the project comes, the idea comes, and then it's analyzed by different people or by managers or people who they analyze the monetization, if it's going to be good or not. Then a prototype is implemented. So the programmers program, one or two programmers, a designer, and an artist, like a really small group of people, implement prototype. And then it is, again, it is reviewed. And then if it's approved, then you go and then you have the plan. You start developing and planning for the next level, for the actual product. And then it takes at least 1 or 2 years for a game to be out, like as a first playable beta game. And then it continues again. And then once it's live, then you think about what's the other things that you can add, for example, new platform, or supporting not just supporting keyboard, but supporting other input mechanisms, etc. So it's not very different. We still have design reviews, technical design reviews. We still have the project, like how it's going to be, all the steps of software engineering that we do, and maybe not all of them. We don't do all of them, maybe. It's again the same as the software. In practice, software companies also don't do all of the theoretic software engineering cycles, but that's what we do. We have design reviews, technical design reviews, meetings for the viable, like if it's a viable project or not, and then approval, implementation, tests. Tests are very important for code as well. We have code reviews when writing codes, as if it's a software, another software company. So as a programmer, actually, it's not really different in terms of what you do. You still program, you have algorithms you have problems to solve, and you implement it with algorithms or with lines of codes, and maybe you use different tools, but the base is the same. There are different types of programmers. The gameplay programmers, for example, they implement the logic of the game. So how the character is going to move, and then when this input comes, what's going to happen, and all this, like the scenario of the game. There are I call system programmers, but generic programmers, or in system programmers, you can put UI programmers, the programmers that implement features that are not gameplay, or engine, some features that will go into engine to extend the engine features. Because now in game development, the engine comes ready, mostly open source, so you can change also the engine code. There are graphics programmers, mostly you do optimization most of the time, or you write shaders or improve shaders. As a graphic programmers, do a lot of profiling using the tools of the engine, or there are tools in Visual Studio as well. Profiling to see the performance. So if the program is running slow, you need to optimize it, because you don't want 6 frames per second in a game. Also, backend developers for online features, backend developers, network programmers, AI programmers. In some companies, it's really in big companies, big projects. For example, Assassin's Creed in Ubisoft, I have friends. They only do, for example, there are positions just animation programmer or 3D programmer. So really, you start as one. You have one role, and you continue like that for years. You can change, but if you want, you can only be 3D programmer, and you can just or you can just do animation. So it's like a factory kind of thing. It becomes like a factory, because everyone has its own role. But in smaller companies, you touch many things. For example, when I started, we were 40 people. There were basically 10 or 15, mostly 15 programmers with all the leads and everything. So I did backend programming. I did client-side programming. I also worked on implementing platforms. So, for example, if you want to add, you need to do extra things if you want to add Xbox One or PlayStation, because they have different architectures and they work a bit different. Their online features or store is different. So yeah, you need to integrate all of this different component, and you need to integrate art. You work with different people as well.
Mhm. So a question is related to Erasmus. Can you give advice about Erasmus? Do you advise students to go abroad for Erasmus? And as you know, we have incoming students from abroad, from European universities.
We used to have Erasmus students, I think, when I was when I was
Did you
studying.
go? So as far as I remember, you didn't go.
I didn't go. I
Okay.
didn't go to Erasmus. No.
But I advise our students to go 1 or 2 terms.
I mean, if they have a chance, yes, you should go. If you
Right.
have a chance, you should go. At least you see how you see different ways of education. It helps you meet different cultures, you meet different people. Yeah, I think it would help to go.
So how did you end up working in Canada? You just applied job positions online and
No, actually, I applied for immigration. So I came here as a permanent resident when I first came. So when I was at university, or maybe when I was doing my master's, I applied for permanent residence in Canada through professional skilled worker status, something like that. So and then you accumulate points and you can apply. Then the process continues, and then I came, I think it was 2012 when I came here. And here I found jobs here, but you can also apply to different jobs. For example, now with Corona, it may have changed even more. Like companies started to think, oh, maybe it's they started to change their minds about finding people from abroad. But in our company as well, we have many people who are coming from different countries, as they apply to the job and then they get accepted, and then they get the visa, the work permit, and they come. So it's also possible to find a job, apply to a job, and then pass the interview process and come to work.
what are your advices for newcomers considering to be a game developer?
My advices would be to learn 3D mathematics and learn to be a good programmer as well. It's still important because when you are, even though you work in a game company, as I said, it's really you do you program. You need to know you need to know the basis of good programming, to write clean code, and you need to know to write efficient code as well. But if you want to learn game, you can, as I said, you can go and check the game engines. You can start experimenting them, try some small projects on them. Like, I don't know, you can do a small game like Brick Breaker or Minesweeper, even just the tic-tac-toe. It helps you understand how everything works. And yeah, you can also check and have a look at some books if you want, or there are YouTube channels there that you can check and learn.
Is knowing French well required to live and work in Montreal? Live and work. the next question. Have you ever need to
French, well, required? Not necessarily, but it's good to know if you want to understand what people are talking around you. But I mean, at work I speak English, and the meetings and emails or most or like comments in the code, technical documentations are prepared in English in our company. I think in many software companies that get international workers have that. It's not required, but it's good to have. It helps, for example, sometimes in a meeting. I understand, I speak French, I understand French. It's not so good when I speak, but I understand, then I can speak. So we can have, sometimes we have meetings in French, and it's not a problem for me. Or it's good like for social bonding sometimes. But people in software companies or game companies, people speak English. So you are not required to speak French.
Have you faced any racist issues in Canada?
Not in workplaces. No, I didn't face any racist issues. I mean, personally, I didn't. But there are people who have faced. Usually, visible minorities may have more racist issues in Canada, but like at work, no, I didn't see or I didn't hear anything in workplaces. But outside, maybe someone can have. Usually there's no problem, no such issues in Canada, but you never know. There's an old person who may say to you, "Oh, speak French. Here is Quebec." Maybe this kind of things. In Montreal, you wouldn't hear that much, but if you go outside of Montreal, where English is not very welcome, then maybe you can get this kind of. It's more like language, and because they want to conserve their language, and they don't want to be. They feel a bit attacked by the English language, people here in Quebec. So maybe that's the reason. But yeah, as I said, it's I didn't have any issue.
Okay, let me answer the next question. Is there any possibility for the lessons to be face-to-face? As far as we know, it's going to be online the next term. That is for first term. So let's continue with the next question. In the game industry, how well one must know OpenGL and DirectX to work as a software developer? Do you need OpenGL, DirectX?
I mean, it helps the OpenGL and DirectX. As now everything is hidden under the engine, so they come as functions now. So you just need to know which function to call most of the time. And if you work as a graphic programmer, then yes, you should know more about OpenGL and DirectX, because you'll go and change the engine and you'll go change the functionalities of this. If you will work in the engine, then yes, you will write a bit of shaders, and you need to know like how to translate a matrix or how to transform a matrix, and which function to use, dot product or cross product in which case. So it's but you don't need to know like everything or deeply. If you are going to work as graphic programmer, then yes. Yeah, in one of my interviews, I was asked a few years back, are you a low-level programmer or a high-level programmer? So it depends on what you want to be. So low-level programming means programmer means that you know what's going on underneath. You know OpenGL, you know the memory. You can understand a bit of assembly, because when you debug, you see like codes in C++. You see binary codes, and then you try to understand what's in the memory, etc. And if you know how to optimize the memory usage or CPU usage, or you know what's underneath of this functions in OpenGL and DirectX, how the architecture works, then yes, I mean, it helps. It helps to know them. But you don't program usually. If you 80% of the cases, you don't really need to program like the OpenGL. You need to know the functions, what to use in the engine that you're using, because they are encapsulated with the functions in the engine, which have similar names as well. But yeah.
Did you try to learn something extra out of school for your personal development while studying in ITU? And if you did, do you have any advice for us?
Yes, I was. Yes, so while I was studying at ITU, I was working at İstanbul Bilişim institution of. I worked at. Wait a second. What was the name? The center, information center.
Okay.
Yeah, the information center at ITU. So I was working part-time as assistant student, and there I learned different things. I learned about hardware. I did a few courses, Cisco courses, networking, and I worked on some database and website projects there. So it helped to improve my programming skills, and I learned different things that I wasn't necessarily learning during the studies. I think we had in software engineering course, we used to have a project that was doing databases and web programming. But that was it in this sense. So yeah, and I was learning. I was doing some small projects with some desktop projects with my friends when I was studying. So yeah, so that's why I would suggest you to start doing something, because when you do, you learn more, not just watching tutorials. It doesn't stick in mind. When you watch and do, or when you have something in mind and want to do, then you go and learn. Then it stays for forever, because learning is both ways, as our teachers used to say when I was in high school. Not just listening, but when you write, it actually, because you write on the board and then you copy. When what you see, you copy. So you see, you write, and then you process it. So it's the same thing with doing projects. So if you want something, if you have something in mind, you can doing small projects help this way. You don't just listen, but you also do it. So the knowledge passes in different stages of your brain, not just in one. So that would be my suggestion. Do something, even if it's small. Just do a small project with the language you know, or if you want to learn a new language, do it with this language. Something that you do in another language, you start doing in new language. Because it's when you learn programming, it doesn't matter what language you write, you learn the language. It's easy to learn the language, but it's not that easy to learn how to program. So that's why learning programming is important. Now, or like at the beginning, I was like, oh, now I know C++, but I'm not so good in Java. But it's not really important. They have some key differences, but once you know how to solve a problem and you know the algorithms and you know what's programming, then learning the language is like 2-week things or a month of thing. It's not. That's why in most interviews, we don't, or the companies don't really require the language that they implement from programmers to know. In most, in big companies at least, they give you a programming question and they ask you to solve it in whichever language you are comfortable with. Then if they are not using Python and they are using Java, you'll learn Java in a few weeks. If you know how to solve the problem. So that's important.
Okay, let's get to the last two questions.
Okay.
The one is related to the salaries. You don't need to answer, but if you want, you can.
Why would the game, that question from Eren?
No, Fatih, how are the salaries are about? Can you share an estimate amount of the salaries? I mean,
Salaries.
Right. Yours,
Okay.
but
I mean, I could say it depends on your experience and it depends on your skills. It depends on how self-confident you are as well. But usually here, at least in
you don't starve,
the
you
game,
can survive.
Oh, yes. They are good salaries. But if you compare with other, for example, big companies like Facebook or Google, they're not in that level. It depends on the company as well. And also, yeah, I mean, as a game developer, you may start lower than if you are working in a financial company, for example. Because some companies may use it as if, oh, well, but you do fun things and then it's okay for you to earn less. But it's not the case. You still do programming and you still work hard. They are competitive salaries. Yes.
There's also another last interesting question from Eren. Why would a game developer or game studio decide to get their games published by another company? Doesn't that make the profits go down?
Yes, it does make the profits go down. But if you don't have experience, with publishing, then it's easier because you need to hire people that do publishing, that work on publishing. And you still then need to do your branding, your marketing by yourself. So you need people for this as well. So if you don't have the experience, if you don't have the people, or you don't have time to find all these people and to invest on the learning of how to publish, then it's easier to just it's easier because this is also management overhead. It gives management overhead. So you need to do a bit of money. You need to make a bit of money from the game, and in order to invest on publishing, because publishing companies, they already have everything in place. They have their stuff, they have the experience, they have connections, they know what and where to do. So that's why for some game companies, it's just easier to do the publishing, to outsource the publishing. Yeah.
I also take
So when
your
you get bigger, then you start thinking of maybe I should invest more and then publish myself to get this extra money that I'm losing.
Can I also get your last advices? Let's wrap up because we have organized it for 1 hour, but
Okay. So, oh yeah, we passed an hour. So my last advice would be think ahead what you want to do in your professional life, and start investing some time on that aspect. Start to learn for your professional life, what you will need in professional life, and do the projects. If you can find, start a part-time job or do some personal projects. And yeah, I mean, if you like the field that you are, the department that you are, you will be you will get your I'll say you will get the reward after that. So there are many job opportunities, different fields. So you can choose one or a field and then start investing on them. It will help you. It will reduce your time to start in working life. Reduce the time to be ready for when you start working, when the studies end.
Erida, thank you very much. It was nice to see you again.
Thank you. Yes, it was very nice talking to you too. I hope it helped. So if you have other questions, you can send to Yusuf, and I would be glad to answer afterwards.
This program series will continue in upcoming weeks. We will have other alumni, our graduates. Thank you for this speech again. Thank you for your time. We kiss your baby. Reza Hocam, would you like to add something? Okay.
It was good to see Erida again. Thank you
Yeah, it
very
was
much
good
for
to
my
see you too.
information. Okay,
Thank
bye.
you.
And we
Bye.
would like to thank our students for participating and asking these questions. See you in next programs. Goodbye.